As the pandemic progressed, uncertainty really increased. We didn't have an end in sight, and that was, I think, the most nerve-wracking thing for everyone.
I knew it was going to be difficult, but at the end, it turned out to be a little more difficult than I expected. First day of recording, and somebody tested positive for COVID-19.
We didn't know how far deep we would go into the forest, so to speak. We knew that we needed to follow the light and make sure that we kept advancing towards our goal of what this project stands for.
The first day I got back to campus, it looked like a ghost ship. As I walked into the studio for the first time and turned on the lights, I started to think, wow, this is my first time here in a year. And it was just, once again, an eerie yet hopeful experience. I could smell the studio again. I could see the lights the way they normally occur. Little by little, the lights kept turning on one at a time, and it felt more and more encouraging as I saw the studio that I had left behind a year ago during this quarantine and see it operational again. It was really, for me, while it was slightly eerie, at the same time, it was an optimistic feeling.
I was so happy to be back in our studios, but the measures we were taking to keep everyone safe made the production almost impossible. Some musicians had to record themselves at home just to be safe.
You know, we've been going through so many changes lately because of the pandemic and the guidelines and protocols that we put in place, because our first and foremost concern was student safety. Back in November 2020, when we came up with this idea to produce this show, we thought that we knew that we would have to reach out. We knew that we would have to involve many talents that are here on the campus, many talents of our musicians, and also reach out to people around the world because, you know, united we stand. We wanted to make sure that we incorporated everybody into this project.
So, I mean, there were a lot of obstacles and a lot of dangers, really, with shooting this project because we would be coming together for the first time. And in one occasion, when we started filming, we were doing some shots with lights, and we were all together in one room, and Ariel said, oh, we can't have more than 2 people in this room or whatnot. We had to break it up. And I guess later on we found out somebody had tested COVID positive from that group that was there. And
we had to stop for 14 days. Those 14 days turned into months as everybody around us was just getting close to someone who had COVID and everybody had to be tested. This was going to take longer than I expected. At the end of the line, I'm responsible for the safety of everyone. I'm the director. So I had to make sure that nobody was going to be infected in this production.
I think a lot of us were concerned as far as getting COVID or our family members getting COVID from us and being cross-contaminated because of that reason. We couldn't have anyone, as far as a musician, without a mask on. So there are a lot of instruments that you need to have your mask off in order to play that instrument.
Everyone was tested, doing what they were supposed to do, and everybody was okay. But like, you know, it was just the anxiety of it, I think, has been, in many cases, worse than the virus itself. And we were on edge. It wasn't easy to put together.
You know, after we decided to record this program, we had to decide on which musical pieces to use.
So the key to this project was to have works that were going to be used as reflections of the time. And the first ones to get hit with this virus was our friends in Europe. Italy was actually the first to start reporting many cases.
It was really sad to see what was happening in Italy. Many people were dying. Some cities were almost wiped out. We didn't know at that time that we were going to be facing something similar here.
I reached out to a composer friend of mine from Italy, and he's a very well-known film composer named Michel Josiah.
Italy is one of the countries that has been hit hardest in Europe by COVID-19, with a death toll up to 127,000 casualties, second only by United Kingdom. And we didn't expect even a fraction of all these that would happen to us in the weeks after the first recorded case of infections here in Italy.
I asked him if he wanted to participate in this project that was taking place here at Miami Dade College, and he agreed. He had a piece that was going to be premiered as a World War II film over in Italy, and the piece is called River of the Last Valley. And the piece reflects a sense of heroism, sadness at times, reflecting on everything that is going on. And the main word that really defines this piece is courage and triumph. And I wanted to use this piece as a reflection of the European experience that went on with this virus. So this would be River of the Last Valley.
know, a lot of the images during this production were quite shocking. I'm used to walking into our sound recording studio. We have quite an ensemble space here. And there's usually 25, 30, 40 musicians playing, and you know, the sound is wonderful, and I observe from the lounge. But during this production of this show, I remember walking into the studio and I see all of the production crew with one musician, and the one musician is reciting, you know, to the click track to make sure that the tempo and that their rhythm is in sync with all of the other musicians that we brought in, virtually one by one by one.
We worked with a lot of different musicians in this production. A lot were inside of MDC, a lot were from overseas as well. Correlate everyone as far as some of them had to record at home, and we had to get those recordings and the different sounds in the different areas that they had to record in. Because of the restrictions, they also blended together well.
And now to see it all put together, that these individual efforts of everybody are all unified into a concert is quite extraordinary.
And I wanted to unite with other musicians and basically have a moment of reflection. Not only the pandemic, but this whole year. You know, reflect a little bit on the resilience it took, the effort it took, and how we were able to overcome using technology and just sheer will.
A tribute to the talent of the people working on this, both behind the scenes and in front of the camera, and then, of course, the musicians. We're all united, and I think that's where the theme and the title of this piece comes together.
Connect with people from overseas, from different countries, and reflect on this period of time that we're always going to look back at and think, wow, we made it.
And yes, we made it. But sometimes it felt more like we were in a science fiction movie than doing a show. The best thing to do is to reveal him. Is to come off. Oh, I can go from the... With the mask and the camera viewfinder, it was just getting foggy and I couldn't see I was in focus or not.
Overall, it was a learning experience of what we can do. You have to be inside of separate rooms, or you have to record at home. So being back here, making sure that we were able to do this project was a really big hurdle that I'm glad that I was a part of.
All of this hard work and all the hours we put into it is because we really want our students to get close to professionals working in real environments. And I think at the end, they're happy to work in this kind of projects.
My name is Dante Jordan. I play the violin and I go to New World School of the Arts. It's definitely been educational. I've learned a lot of things about editing videos and editing audio that I might not have known had I just been able to play in person with people. I've gotten the opportunity to play with many orchestras virtually without having to worry about being in person, and that's been really educational because I get to learn that the orchestra doesn't start with everyone, it starts inside yourself, and I can really explore more musicality within myself.
My name's Oscar Ospina. I play the trumpet and I study at Miami Dade College. I mean, it was very different. It was a lot of big names and a lot of different stuff that was coming at me. So I was a little intimidated, but I was excited to be part of this project.
My name is Marilyn Gore. I play violin. I attend Miami Dade College. I also teach piano. Music is very positive for me because even though I was playing by myself, the fact that I can go to the instrument and play and find solace, because it was some really lonely times, and having something to fall back on was the saving grace.
We're rolling right now. I feel like a project like this is very beneficial in that, and also we were able to comply with CDC, because how are you supposed to be a music major and you're not playing with other musicians?
Originally, when I thought of a project to do during this period, I thought of calling it Elegy 2020. And really what I wanted to do was reflect on those that lost their lives. I mean, we lost friends, we lost family, we lost musicians, we lost artists, actors. If you stop and reflect on all those that we lost throughout this year, it's quite astounding. Instead of just making a whole project on this, I would take a moment of this project and use one song to reflect and to be used as an elegy for those lost. And that piece, I thought the most appropriate of all would be Ave Maria.
We decided to include Ave Maria into this piece. You know, Ave Maria, it's a little bit strange coming here in a production like United We Stand, because it's usually associated with Christmas. But more than that, it's not just a holiday piece, it's a piece that represents hope. And I think that's an important theme that runs throughout this program.
I was raised a Catholic, but now I'm a humanist. And this piece represents the suffering of Mary after losing Jesus. But she can only find hope knowing that he ascended to heaven and he is now next to God. And by doing so, humanity was safe.
Now this piece, while it may have different interpretations on what people feel or what it reminds them of, and that's what's beautiful about music, for me personally, it's a piece that is reflective. It's a piece that we hear a lot in churches. We hear it in funeral services. It has a solemn yet hopeful tone to it, and it's absolutely beautiful. And for this, I asked my good friend Ann Cheech-Porteach to play the violin solo, as we all took a moment to reflect on those that were less fortunate during this time. And this would be an elegy for all those we lost. So now we're in a period of time where hope is on the way and there's a vaccine. Many are getting vaccinated. Slowly we see the numbers dropping of COVID infections. And we're getting a lot more than just a little light behind the tunnel. At the end of the tunnel, we see quite a bit of sunlight coming in.
My original idea was to have a group of musicians playing in one stage, probably outdoors or indoors, but we didn't know when it was going to be safe.
The idea of having 20 musicians during a pandemic, it was definitely not something that I thought would happen this soon, but it's something that we all want to happen.
We were able to, for the first time, convince our administration to perhaps join together as a full ensemble for the first time and conclude with a piece that would reflect the joy of this time that we are starting to feel like we're coming out of this pandemic.
We've been working in isolation. We've had one, maybe two musicians together in the recording studio, kept at a distance. But we're finally going to be able, after about a year and a half of not having performances take place as such, we're going to have an entire orchestral ensemble on stage performing this final piece.
And finally, we can do the last piece of the show. I was so happy to hear Dan Stravinsky was part of the show. His music is so epic. And if you listen to John Williams, there's a lot of influence on his soundtracks that comes from Stravinsky himself. He was such a great composer.
The finale of the Firebird, which is what we will play, is a song of deliverance. The Firebird is a piece written for ballet, which basically we have a prince who meets a firebird as he's hunting, and the Firebird promises the prince that he will deliver him in a time of need. And after battles with a sorcerer who was keeping the woman that he wants to marry captive, as well as others that were turned to stone and sleeping, in comes the Firebird and rescues the day. And then upon everyone awakening, upon all being, overcome, there's this song of deliverance, which is the piece we're about to play. And it's, I think, quite appropriate to hear the sounds of Stravinsky during this time because it gives us a sense of hope. We are awakening from this experience. We are starting to come out of this virus, and we are emerging now out of this time with a newfound sense of resilience, newfound resolve, and optimistically looking forward towards the future, expecting better days ahead.